So with marathon training season fully upon us, I thought it would be a great time to stack up a couple of shoes that will really be there to soak up a lot of those marathon pace miles. What is up guys, Andy Forrest, Team Runner here. Welcome back to another shoe comparison video. Today we're taking a look at the Endorphin Speed versus the Zoom Fly 5. So welcome back to another video. Excited to share this one with you. Love doing these shoe comparisons, and today marathon training is all the focus because a lot of marathon training miles are going to be absorbed in these two shoes for me over the next couple of months. I'm going to be pitting them against each other and sharing with you guys my pros and cons of each of them and which one I think is going to get slightly more miles than the other. So if you're excited for today's video, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and we'll start with the Zoom Fly. So again, just as a reminder, this is not a technical overview video. You won't get all a load of stats, but I will share a couple of things that make these two shoes very relevant to each other. If you're interested in learning more about these shoes, head back onto the channel, check out both of these videos. First impressions of each of the shoes. You'll get all the information you need there. But for today, it's all about pros and cons and sharing the similarities and differences that these two have. Both have an 8mm stack. This one, we're talking in around the 40 to 41mm stack in the heel, 32 to 33 in the forefoot. I wasn't quite sure in the exact stack height, but it's in and around that area. So pushing the legal boundaries according to World Athletics. And in terms of the weight, this is the main differentiation between the two shoes. We're talking at 388 grams in my UK size 13 or 13.8 ounces, which is hefty, but it's not stopped me logging a ton of miles in this shoe. And so let's go through the pros and cons of it. I think genuinely the only con I can say about this shoe is the weight. I will mention it. We'll throw that one out there first. It is just on the heavier side. For a lot of people, the weight is too much. I know this shoe divides opinion. For me, it was very much when I launched it, when I put my first video out there, I very much said it was a misunderstood shoe. I kind of feel like a lot of people bought it, just went, oh, the weight's too heavy. Didn't really give it a chance and just sent it back to Nike or wherever they got it from, which is fair enough. I get it. A lot of people don't want to run in shoes as heavy as this. But what I will say for me is it's got well over 100 miles in it now, and it has been an absolute key training companion over the last few months, especially during marathon training. I was using it a fair bit, soaking up some of those marathon miles. And what it did for me is when I slipped on the Alpha Fly or the Next Percent to do the marathon miles, I was relatively similar in terms of efficiency. Paces felt easier in the racing shoes, but in terms of heart rate and things, they weren't too dissimilar. We're talking 1, 2, 3 beats a minute higher in this thing than the other one. Whereas in other shoes, I'd be working a lot harder than when I slip on the race shoes. And for me, that's what this shoe's all about. It's about efficiency. I feel smooth and efficient in this shoe. The weight doesn't bother me when I get into my stride with it. And that's been a massive factor as to why this thing has been in my rotation. When I was doing a lot of training runs in it for my last marathon in London, it just got the job done so well. And actually it became my go-to shoe there and then for a lot of those slightly faster than marathon pace miles and slightly slower than even moderate running. This has a good spectrum of pace ranges. Let's get that sliding scale out. I keep forgetting which side to start at. Let's say easy pace this end and VO2 max top end. So for me, I wouldn't take this thing on an easy run, certainly moderate pace at minimum, and I wouldn't take it anything at even up to 10k pace, to be honest with you. I think it very much is squeezed in there from moderate pace, marathon pace, and half marathon pace. Like that is its realm. And I think the Speed has a slightly wider spectrum, but overall they really do cross over quite nicely in that region. Speaking of which, let's roll through this shoe, the pros and cons in terms of marathon specific training. But very quickly, if you saw last week, excuse me, I'm just going to roll through this again very quickly. 8mm heel to toe drop, 36mm of stack in the heel, 28 in the forefoot, 287 grams or 10.1 ounces. So weight difference is huge. We're talking 3.7 ounces, 101 grams. It's a big old weight difference, and that is where this thing has the edge. I mean, I want to go through the similarities here. Let's get the sliding scale out again. So just like last week, easy VO2 max. I feel this has a slightly wider range. So definitely moderate pace is where it kind of starts really, not an easy run shoe. And I feel this can definitely go up to 10k training. I wouldn't necessarily push 5k intervals in it. Or faster. I'd do it if I had to, but I feel I've got better shoes in my rotation for that. So it does have a slightly wider range, but again, the nature of the shoe, very cruisy, so that half marathon, marathon and moderate pace is ideal for this shoe, and it's where I've been really enjoying it so far. So the main difference I think between these two shoes, as I've mentioned before, The weight is huge, but they both give you that smooth land, toe off, roll through. The whole gait cycle feels good in both these shoes. The geometry in the Zoom Fly 5 makes me, I mean, I love the Vaporfly and the Alpha Fly. I love the Nike racing shoes. They're my favorite. And the Zoom Fly is just a great training partner. I love wearing that, slipping on the racing shoes and feeling good, but still having a relatively similar feeling because I've been experiencing it in training thanks to the Zoom Fly. This thing again with the Speed Roll tech, very smooth land and transition through in the gait cycle, really, really good. Again, they really tick both those boxes, and I feel both of them are going to be great for me to use through this next Newport Marathon training block. The main difference between these two shoes is this feels light when you slip it on, and you feel like you're going faster. So with the Zoom Fly, what happens for me personally is I get surprised at the data that I see. I get surprised at my heart rate, how efficient it is. I get surprised at the paces I hit. I mean, I can see the paces as I'm running, but I'm surprised at the end when I go, oh, I was able to hit that pace, because they don't necessarily feel the lightest, but when you're running, you don't notice it. But when you slip them on, you go, oh, do you know what? This might take a bit more effort and I might not hit the paces because of the weight of it, but actually you just end up doing it. With this thing, you kind of instinctively know that you're going to hit the paces because you slip it on, it's featherweight, and it's compared to the other shoe, and you just feel fast. So you kind of have that confidence. Like, I get more confidence wearing this shoe than I do with the Zoom Fly. Don't get me wrong, the Zoom Fly is super comfortable and I do really enjoy it, but I think this breeds confidence in me. If I were to go out and do a marathon pace session, I kind of feel like I know I'm going to hit what I need to hit during that session and execute it well. The Zoom Fly, I feel like it could be hit or miss depending on how I'm feeling that day, and I feel like mentally, if I'm not on point, that weight's going to start playing on my mind and it might end up dragging me down a little bit. So all in all, I feel like this definitely has the edge when it comes to performance, like mental confidence, mental performance, and it just, as I said, breeds confidence in you. All that being said, let's stack them up against each other and let's kind of give you my verdict on which one I think is going to be getting slightly more miles in it. And I've got to say, I think it's probably going to be the Speed 3, not by a lot, because I do feel like this really does have a place. But I think with what I've got planned with my coach Will, I'm going to have a variety of workouts. And I feel like already I know which workouts are going to be catered for by which type of shoe. Like, so if he throws me in some 10K to half marathon type of workouts, like faster marathon pace stuff, I probably want to obviously go in with this shoe instead. But if there's marathon pace miles, I feel like they're going to be evenly split between these two shoes. And actually, if I'm brutally honest with you, I'll probably end up going more for the Zoom Fly, just because I know I'm going to race in the next percent for Newport or the Alpha Fly. I've got a fresh pair of next percents for this year, so although I feel like I'd be better in the Alpha Fly, I kind of want to go back to the next percent because that's where I set my PB. I'm trying to do things in this training block that I did back when I set my PB. One of those things was to race in the next percent. So I do feel like this is going to get maybe more marathon pace miles, but I think when I sit down at the end of the day after the 12-week training block and count the amount of miles that I put in both shoes, I do feel like this thing is going to edge it. And two things off the back of that comparison. Number one, I just want to say both these shoes are usually on discount, especially the Zoom Flies. They can be picked up for under £100. The Speed 3s, again, they're still on sports shoes for under £100. Both these shoes can be grabbed at a decent price. I know when I mentioned it last week, some of you in different countries, I think someone mentioned it in Canada and other places, hadn't been on discount yet. I'm very sorry. We're very lucky in the UK. We've got some good January sales on right now, so make the most of it. I think if I was to advise any of you a preference, I probably would say the Speed. I just feel it's slightly more versatile, but I would say if you get the opportunity to try the Zoom Fly and you've been hesitant, do pick it up on a good deal. I have seen them in some of the Nike sales as low as £60–70. At that price, I feel like it's worth a shot, especially if you get it directly from Nike, because if it don't work from you, they can send it back. I don't get a kickback, I'm just saying from advice, I feel like that would be a good option to try and just see what you think about the shoes, because I think for that price, they're definitely worth it. With that being said, I've got another shoe coming in for testing next week, which slots nicely into this bracket. Again, it's going to mix up what we've got going on here with the marathon training miles, and I'm hoping that one is going to take a lot of them. Excited to share what that is next week. I'm not going to say any more for the moment, and I will share that with you when I drop my initial review. But that's it for today. If you enjoyed the video, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Until then.